Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive today. We're going to be looking at something that can completely change the way you approach. Well, pretty much everything.
Interesting.
We are talking about Richard Koch's the 80-20 principle. And get this, it's all about how just a tiny chunk of what we do actually drives the majority of our results.
Sounds crazy, right? It really is a fascinating concept.
But trust me.
The 80-20 rule, or the Pareto principle, is like finding a hidden map to efficiency. It suggests that roughly 80% of consequences stem from a mere 20% of causes.
So it's like saying 80% of the peas in a pod came from just 20% of the flowers on the vine.
That's a great analogy. Think about a clothing store. They might have hundreds of items in stock, but chances are just a small selection of those items make up the bulk of their sales.
Okay, so I'm starting to see how this could apply to, say, a business. But how does this play out in our everyday lives?
Think about your to-do list. You might have a long list of tasks, but are all those tasks equally important? Probably not. It's likely that just a few of those tasks, your vital 20%, will contribute the most to achieving your goals.
Wow. So it's not just about working harder, it's about working smarter. So how do we figure out what our own personal vital 20% is? Is there some kind of secret formula?
Well, there's no magic formula, but Richard Koch offers some great strategies for figuring this out. It's all about analyzing your activities and honestly assessing what's truly moving the needle. For example, let's say you're trying to grow your social media following. Instead of trying to be active on every single platform, you could focus on the one or two platforms where you see the most engagement and growth.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's about focusing on the areas where we see the most return on our investment of time and energy.
Exactly. And that's where the concept of leverage comes in.
Leverage. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. Tell me more about this leverage thing.
Leverage is like a superpower. It's about amplifying the impact of your efforts. Let's say you're a musician and you discover that 80% of your online fans come from Instagram. Instead of spreading yourself thin trying to promote your music on every social media platform, you could leverage the power of Instagram by creating engaging content specifically for that audience.
So you're doubling down on what's already working and using your resources strategically to maximize your impact. I love it.
Precisely. And it's not just about external resources. You can also leverage your skills and strengths. Think about what you're naturally good at and how you can use those talents to achieve your goals more effectively.
This is blowing my mind. It's like we've been playing the game on hard mode all this time.
Yeah.
And now someone just handed us the cheat codes.
It really is a game changer. But it's important to remember that the 80-20 principle is more than just a productivity hack. It's a mindset shift.
Mindset shift. What does that even mean?
It's about questioning assumptions, challenging conventional wisdom, and always looking for ways to do things faster and more efficiently. It's about being open to new possibilities and not being afraid to experiment.
So it's like instead of just accepting the way things are, we're constantly looking for those areas where we can streamline, simplify, and maximize our impact.
Exactly. It's about being intentional with your time and energy and making conscious choices that align with your goals and values.
This is so empowering. It's like we're taking back control of our lives and saying, hey, we don't have to do everything. We just have to do the right thing.
That's a great way to put it. It's about recognizing that you have agency in shaping your reality and creating a life that's both productive and fulfilling.
I'm already feeling inspired to declutter my to-do list and figure out what my vital 20% is. But I have to admit, change can be tough. What if we get stuck or hit a roadblock?
That's a valid concern. Koch addresses this in his book, acknowledging that change isn't always easy. He reminds us that it's okay to start small and to focus on making gradual improvements over time.
So it's not about trying to overhaul our entire lives overnight, but rather about making small, consistent changes that add up over time. It's like building a muscle, right?
Exactly. And it's important to be patient with yourself. There will be times when you slip up or feel discouraged, and that's perfectly normal. The key is to keep coming back to those core principles and to keep experimenting until you find what works for you.
This is all great advice, but I'm curious, does Richard Koch have any specific tips for dealing with the inevitable resistance we might face when trying to adopt this new way of thinking?
He actually offers some practical advice for handling that resistance. He suggests creating a plan of action, visualizing your success, and finding an accountability partner to help you stay on track.
Okay, so it's like setting ourselves up for success by having a roadmap. a clear vision of where we want to go, and someone to cheer us on along the way.
Oh, precisely. He also encourages us to celebrate our wins, no matter how small they may seem. Every step forward, every achievement is a victory worth acknowledging.
That's so important. It's like giving ourselves those little pats on the back to stay motivated and keep the momentum going. I'm loving this conversation. Before we move on, I want to make sure our listeners are following along. Do you have any thoughts or questions about what we've discussed so far?
I think we've covered a lot of ground, but it's always good to pause and reflect. So I'd ask you, what are your initial impressions of the 80-20 principle? Does anything stand out to you as particularly relevant to your own life?
I'm already thinking about all the areas where I could be applying this principle. From my work project to my social life, I'm seeing all sorts of possibilities. What about you?
I'm struck by how this principle can empower us to create a life that's not only more productive, but also more meaningful. By focusing on our vital 20%, we're essentially choosing to invest our time and energy in the things that truly matter to us. And that, to me, is incredibly powerful.
Well said. Now I'm even more excited to dive into the practical application of this principle. But before we do, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll explore specific examples of how people have used the 80-20 principle to transform their lives and achieve incredible results. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the 80-20 principle. Now let's shift gears and explore some practical strategies for making this principle a reality in your life.
Okay, I'm all ears in the last part. We talked about identifying our vital 20%. Those high impact activities that drive the majority of our results. But how do we actually go about putting this principle into action?
One of the most powerful strategies Koch suggests is what he calls strategic laziness.
Strategic laziness.
Now, before you think we're advocating for lounging around all day, hear me out.
That sounds intriguing.
Yeah?
But honestly, it also sounds a bit counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Especially in a society that often glorifies busyness.
You're right, it does challenge the always-on mentality. But what's fascinating about this concept is that it's not about being lazy in the traditional sense. It's about being deliberate and thoughtful about where we choose to invest our energy.
So it's about being selective and saying no to the things that don't align with our goals, even if they seem urgent or important at the time.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that our time and energy are precious resources, and we need to be mindful about how we spend them. We can't say yes to everything, and trying to do so often leads to burnout and diminished returns.
So how do we actually apply this strategic laziness in practice? How do we decide what to say no to and what to prioritize?
It starts with understanding your values and goals. Once you have clarity on what truly matters to you, you can start to evaluate your commitments and activities through that lens. For example, let's say you're passionate about writing a novel, but you're also feeling pressured to attend every social event and volunteer opportunity that comes your way.
Oh, I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling of being pulled in a million different directions.
Right. And it's in those moments that strategic laziness can be incredibly empowering. It's about giving yourself permission to prioritize your writing time, even if it means declining some invitations or delegating some tasks.
So it's about being protective of our time and energy and ensuring that we're investing them in the activities that are most aligned with our goals and passions.
That makes a lot of sense. But I'm also thinking about those times when we have a lot on our plate, and it feels like everything is a priority. How do we apply the 80-20 principle in those situations?
That's where Koch's 80-20 analysis comes in handy. It's a simple but effective framework for prioritizing tasks and identifying your vital few. Essentially, you list all your tasks or activities, then rank them according to their contribution to your overall goals.
So it's kind of like creating a hierarchy of tasks with the most impactful ones at the top. Does that mean we need to meticulously track every single task and calculate percentages? Not necessarily. It doesn't have to be a rigid or overly complicated process. The key is to get a general sense of which tasks are truly moving the needle and which ones are less impactful. You can do this by asking yourself, if I could only complete 3 tasks today, which ones would have the biggest impact on my goals?
That's a great question to ask. It forces us to really think critically about what's truly important and what can be delegated, delayed, or even eliminate it altogether.
Right. It's about being ruthless with your to-do list and focusing your energy on those activities that will generate the greatest return on your investment of time and effort.
This reminds me of something we talked about earlier, leverage.
Ah, yes. Leverage is all about amplifying the impact of your efforts, and it's especially powerful when combined with the 80-20 principle. Once you've identified your vital 20%, those high-impact tasks, you can then look for ways to leverage resources, skills, and relationships to maximize their effectiveness.
So it's like we're taking those high-impact tasks and supercharging them. Can you give me an example of how this might work in real life?
Absolutely. Let's say you're a small business owner, and you've identified that 80% of your sales come from online orders. You could leverage this insight by investing in a more user-friendly e-commerce platform, or by hiring a virtual assistant to help manage customer inquiries and order fulfillment.
Wow. So you're essentially freeing up your time and energy to focus on the areas where you can make the biggest difference, like developing new products or strategies for growth.
Exactly. And leverage isn't just about outsourcing or automation. It can also involve collaborating with others, seeking mentorship, or investing in tools and resources that can streamline your workflow.
This is all starting to click for me. It's like we're piecing together a puzzle, and each concept builds upon the previous one. But I'm also wondering, can the 80-20 principle be applied to our personal lives as well?
Absolutely. It's not just a business or productivity principle.
Okay.
It's a way of thinking that can transform all areas of your life, including your relationships, health, and personal growth.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more about how this applies to our personal lives.
Let's start with relationships. Think about the people in your life who bring you the most joy, support, and inspiration. Chances are, a small number of those relationships account for the majority of your happiness and well-being. This isn't to say that other relationships are important, but it's about recognizing that certain relationships have a greater impact on our lives.
So it's about being intentional, about nurturing those key relationships and investing our time and energy in the people who truly matter to us. It's like the saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. We need to fill our own cups first by prioritizing the relationships that nourish and support us.
That's a beautiful analogy, and it applies to other areas of our personal lives as well. For example, when it comes to our health, we can apply the 80-20 principle by focusing on those key habits that have the greatest impact on our overall well-being. This might include getting enough sleep, eating nutritious foods, managing stress, and engaging in regular physical activity.
So instead of trying to overhaul our entire lifestyle overnight, which can be overwhelming and unsustainable, we can focus on those few key habits that will move the needle the most.
Exactly. It's about simplifying, prioritizing, and focusing on the things that truly matter. And it's about recognizing that small, consistent changes can lead to significant results over time. Now, how do you feel about your understanding of the 80-20 principle so far? Is anything resonating with you, or are there any areas you'd like to explore further?
I'm honestly blown away by how versatile and powerful this principle is. It's like a lens that can be applied to any area of our lives, helping us to see things with more clarity and intention. I'm particularly interested in how this principle can be applied to creative pursuits.
That's a great point. The 80-20 principle can be incredibly helpful for creative individuals, especially those who often feel overwhelmed by ideas or struggle with procrastination, for example. A writer could use this principle to identify those times of day when they are most productive and creative, then schedule their writing sessions accordingly. Or a musician could focus on honing their skills in their chosen instrument, instead of trying to master every instrument under the sun.
So it's about identifying those activities that are most aligned with our creative passions, and then streamlining our efforts to maximize our creative output.
Exactly. And it's about giving ourselves permission to let go of the things that are draining our energy or distracting us from our creative goals.
This is all so inspiring. I'm already brainstorming ways to apply these principles to my own life. Before we wrap up, I want to make sure we address one more important aspect of the 80-20 principle. Richard Koch talks about the importance of mindset, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
You're right. Mindset is crucial, in fact. I'd argue that it's the foundation upon which the entire 80-20 principle rests.
Okay, tell me more about the 80-20 mindset. What does that look like in practice?
It's about cultivating a mindset of curiosity, experimentation, and continuous improvement. It's about challenging assumptions, questioning conventional wisdom, and always looking for ways to do things better, faster, and more efficiently. It's about being open to new possibilities and not being afraid to fail.
So it's not just about applying specific techniques or strategies. It's about embracing a way of thinking that empowers us to constantly seek out opportunities for growth and optimization.
Exactly. It's about being proactive rather than reactive. It's about taking ownership of our choices and actions and recognizing that we have the power to shape our reality.
This is such a powerful message. It's about recognizing that we are not simply victims of circumstance, but rather active creators of our own lives.
Yeah.
But I'm also wondering, how do we cultivate this 80-20 mindset? Is it something that comes naturally to some people, or can it be learned and developed?
I believe that anyone can develop an 80-20 mindset. It's a matter of practice and intentionality. One of the key strategies is to cultivate a habit of self-reflection. This involves taking time to regularly evaluate your activities, habits, and beliefs, and asking yourself, are these serving me well? Are they aligned with my goals and values? Is there a better way to do this?
So it's about being mindful of our choices and actions, and constantly looking for opportunities to learn, grow, and improve.
Precisely. And it's about being willing to experiment and try new things, even if they feel uncomfortable or unfamiliar at first.
This reminds me of something Richard Koch writes about, the importance of embracing discomfort and stepping outside of our comfort zones. He argues that true growth and innovation often occur when we challenge ourselves and push beyond our perceived limitations.
Absolutely. The 80-20 mindset is all about embracing challenge and seeing obstacles as opportunities for growth and learning.
This has been such an insightful conversation. I'm already feeling inspired to apply these principles to my own life and to cultivate a more intentional and impactful way of living. But I'm also aware that we've covered a lot of ground in this episode. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up this part of our deep dive?
I think we've touched on some of the most important aspects of the 80-20 principle and how it can be applied to both our professional and personal lives. But I want to emphasize that this is just the beginning of the journey. The real magic happens when you start to experiment with these principles and find what works best for you.
That's a great point. It's not about following a rigid set of rules or formulas. It's about adapting these principles to your own unique circumstances and finding ways to make them work for you.
Right, exactly. And it's important to remember that it's a process, not a destination. There will be times when you stumble or feel discouraged, but that's okay. The key is to keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving to create a life that's both productive and fulfilling.
Well said. This has been an incredibly enlightening conversation. Before we move on, I want to give our listeners a moment to reflect on what we've discussed. What are your key takeaways from this episode? What are some of the things that resonated with you the most?
I'd also like to encourage you to think about one area of your life where you can start applying the 80-20 principle right now. What's one small change you can make today that it could have a significant impact on your overall well-being or productivity?
Those are great questions to ponder. Now let's take a short break, and when we return, we'll delve into some real-life examples of how people have used the 80-20 principle to transform their lives and achieve remarkable results. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Deep Dive, and I am ready for those stories.
Okay, get ready to be inspired. One listener shared how overwhelmed they felt by their inbox. Hundreds of emails every day, and it was taking over their life.
I feel that.
They decided to apply the 80-20 principle to their email habits.
Okay, I'm hooked already. So many of us struggle with email overload. What did they do?
They realized that only about 20% of those emails truly required their immediate attention or action.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
The rest were newsletters they rarely read, promotional offers they weren't interested in, or messages that could be addressed later.
It's like separating the wheat from the chaff,
Exactly.
Focusing on the emails that truly matter.
So they implemented a system where they set aside specific times to check and respond to those important emails.
Okay,
They unsubscribed from all the unnecessary newsletters.
that makes sense.
And set up filters to automatically sort incoming emails into different folders based on priority.
Wow, that's brilliant. It's like taking back control of your inbox instead of letting it control you.
Right. And the results were incredible. They dramatically reduced the amount of time they spent on email each day, and they felt much less stressed and overwhelmed. They were able to focus their energy on more important tasks, and they felt more productive overall.
That's amazing. It shows that even small changes, like streamlining your email habits, can have a huge impact on your productivity and well-being. Do you have any other examples of how people have used the 80-20 principle to improve their lives?
Absolutely. Another listener shared how they applied the 80-20 principle to their fitness routine.
Okay, all ears.
They realized that 80% of their fitness results came from just a few key exercises and healthy habits.
Okay, this is an area where I think a lot of us struggle to find the time and motivation to make progress.
Right, this listener was spending hours at the gym each week,
Oh, yeah.
doing a wide variety of exercises, but they weren't seeing the results they wanted. They were feeling exhausted and discouraged.
I've been there. It's like you're putting in all this effort, but you're not moving the needle.
Exactly. So they decided to simplify their routine and focus on the exercises that were most effective for their fitness goals. They also prioritized getting enough sleep and eating a healthy diet.
So they stripped away all the unnecessary fluff and focused on the core elements that were driving their results.
Precisely. And results were remarkable. They started seeing significant improvements in their strength endurance and overall fitness. They also felt more energized and motivated. They realized that less is often more when it comes to fitness.
That's so inspiring. It reminds us that we don't need to spend hours at the gym or follow complicated workout plans to achieve our fitness goals. It's about focusing on the essentials and being consistent with those healthy habits.
Absolutely. It's about working smarter, not harder. Now, I know we focused on personal stories, but the 80-20 principle has also had a major impact on businesses and even entire industries.
Oh, I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah.
How has this principle played out in the business world?
Well, think about the tech industry. You have countless apps and software programs available, but only a handful achieve widespread adoption and success.
Right.
These companies often focus on a core set of features that solve a specific problem for their users, and they excel at delivering a seamless and enjoyable user experience. They don't try to be everything to everyone. They focus on what they do best.
That's a great example. It's like they've identified their vital 20%, those features or services that are most valuable to their customers. And they've poured their energy and resources into making those aspects exceptional.
Exactly. And it's not just about product development. Companies can also apply the 80-20 principle to their marketing efforts, customer service, and even their internal operations.
So it's about finding those areas where they can have the greatest impact with the least amount of effort. It's about streamlining processes, eliminating waste, and focusing on the activities that drive the most value for their business.
Precisely. And the beauty of this principle is that it can be applied to any industry or organization, regardless of size or scope.
This has been such an eye-opening exploration of the 80-20 principle. I feel like I have a whole new toolkit for approaching life with more intention and focus. But before we wrap up, I want to make sure our listeners have all the resources they need to continue this journey.
Absolutely. We encourage you to pick up a copy of Richard Koch's book. It's packed with practical strategies and insights that can help you apply the 80-20 principle to all areas of your life.
And you can find a link to purchase the book in the description below. We also invite you to continue the conversation with us. What are your biggest takeaways from this deep dive? What are some areas where you're excited to apply the 80-20 principle? Share your thoughts and insights in the comments below.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive, we encourage you to subscribe to our channel, Book Talks Wisdom. That way you will get notifications for our latest decodes of insightful books that can help you live your best life.
We love exploring new ideas and sharing wisdom with you. So if there's a book you'd like us to discuss and decode in a future episode, let us know in the comments below. Until next time, happy 80-20ing.